And welcome to Habs Unfiltered. I am your host, Blaine Pudvey, and I am going solo on this episode. Um, Apologize again for the lack of activity. Lots of stuff going on here at home, uh, on the home front personally for both myself and Treg. We're both quite busy with work, and not just with the military. I covered the U17 World Challenge in Truro. That was 2 to 3 games per day for an entire week. So that's a lot of time spent at the rink and a lot of writing. Then I had to get caught back up on my day job once I got back from my holiday to cover that. Anyway, just to get right into it, because I am alone, there's going to be a few items to cover, such as the Canadiens' latest games, the injuries, uh, issues with special teams, and what's coming up. All right, so just to kick it off, the Canadiens are on a 3 game losing skid, with the latest coming on a 3-2 loss to the Bruins on Saturday night. Now, it sucks that the Canadiens lost at home to a historical rival like that. Uh, and the worst part of that whole thing is that's a game that they could have won, even though they weren't playing their best hockey. Uh, it started off really physical with a couple of fights pretty early on. Um, and there was a lot of physicality along the boards, some big hits, and the Canadiens were holding their own on that end. At the end of it, though, it was kind of one of these things where um, the Canadiens just couldn't find their footing. They After those 2 straight losses where they lost against the Kings and then got thumped by Dallas, it's almost as if their confidence was completely gone. But the game against the Bruins it kind of built some of it back. Uh, Now that game uh, now gives them an 1-3-2 record in their last 6 games. So it's essentially their first real slump of the season. But that last game against Boston kind of seemed like they're finding their way back out a little bit. Um, Now, in those, yeah, there's a lot of defensive frustration for the Canadiens in that game. They they did give up some prime chances, and the good news here is that Montembeault looked pretty good for the vast majority of that game. He made some big saves. Um, if he wasn't playing to the level he was here, if he was playing to a level that he was maybe a week ago, that would have been another 7-0 drubbing. Um, but he made some very key saves, some big saves, kept them in the game, and the Canadiens actually had a legitimate chance late in the game to tie it up. They didn't, so um, but they could have won this thing outright, even though they didn't play to their best ability. It was their power play that failed them on this, and they went 0 for 7 against the Bruins in that game, and 2 5-on-3 power plays that generated a grand total of 3 shots, and none of them were that dangerous. The most dangerous chances, I think, the most dangerous chance came off the stick of Bolduc on the second wave of a power play, on the second power play wave in their second 5-on-3, where he was able to get a one-timer off in the bumper slot, but it sailed wide over the net. That might have been their best opportunity. So they didn't convert on any of their power plays. And Nick Suzuki, after the game, he flat out admitted it. Special teams lost them the game. Uh, so and he also admitted that it's a confidence thing. They're not getting their touches. They're not feeling confident. They don't feel like they're in every play, and it's like they're almost. And in my opinion, it's like they're trying too hard because it's not coming as easily, and it kind of snowballs. So they're gripping their sticks a little tighter, especially when you're going on a streak over that 1-3-2 streak. They're 0 for 17 on the power play. Um, and that's what's killing them. If their power play was clicking at even its pre uh, Demidov introduction to the top power play numbers, so an 18% clip, with 7 power plays, they should have gotten one, maybe 2 goals, and that would have been the difference in this game. So if they can solve their power play, and that's what I'm going to be getting into here in a moment, a little bit later on. But the power play is something that they really need to work on if they hope to start winning more games again. Um, but they were fairly competitive in that game. Uh, Boston, yeah, they've got injury issues too, and they played hard. They played a nearly flawless road game. They didn't need to put on a show. All they needed to do was just crash bang, slow the pace of the game down, and they did. Uh, Unfortunately, the Canadiens couldn't find answers for that. And adding to the unfortunateness that they're facing so far this season, um, the injury concerns. I touched on it just a second ago. Newhook, he's out for 4 months. That is going to hurt the Canadiens long term. This is a guy who was basically stabilizing that second line with 2 rookies, Kapanen and Demidov. Newhook, he's a young veteran, and he was finally hitting his stride. He was on pace for 30 goals this season. Like that 30-goal season when his career high is 15. So he was playing a solid two-way game. He was bringing a lot of speed. Uh, and it was helping that second line. So it was taking some pressure off that top line. So with him being out 4 months with a brutal ankle injury, which when I watched the play happen against Dallas, that was just it hurt me to watch. I've had an injury similar to that, so I knew he was not going to be coming back, not anytime soon. And in that same Dallas game, Doc blocked a pretty big shot that kind of left him off down in the corner where Dallas ended up scoring a goal. Um, but he came back and played against Boston, and he was doing well. He looked pretty good, but you can tell he was kind of, something was a little off. And then he blocked another massive shot, and now he's out for 4 weeks with a broken bone in his foot, which again, I mean, you've lost 2 key elements to your top 9, especially with Doc, who is starting to play some really good hockey. I mean, this poor guy can't catch a good break. I feel bad for the guy. But when somebody goes down, somebody has to come up. So with Newhook out for 4 months, the Canadiens proceeded to call up Jared Davidson. And with Doc out now, they've called up Roy. And so Joshua Roy is going to be up with the team now. So with Davidson, he had his first game and he played against Boston, and he looked good. Like he was standing up to guys. He was fairly physical. He was dealing with the physicality. He was going to the net. He played a simple, effective style of hockey. He played about 7 minutes. He got 4 shots on goal, and he had some really strong possession stats. Um, and I think the reason is that his style really fits the role of an energy player. He brings an identity to that fourth line. If you can get somebody else on that fourth line with him to match that style. I mean, right now Veleno's down there with him. It's not really a match. Um, Long term, I don't think so. But for now, Davidson, if he can continue playing that way, I don't see him having to go back anytime soon, especially now with the Canadiens playing with only 12 forwards. Uh, Joshua Roy, he brings some offensive skill, and this could be a showcase for him. He's going to probably get a lengthy look here because Doc is out for 4 weeks. Um, Montreal, like I said, is only carrying 12 healthy forwards. And they got 4 rookies in the lineup now. going into the game on Monday night against Columbus. So how ice time gets distributed, who gets placed where, that's going to be an interesting storyline after the game to take a look at. But it's not going to be simple at all. Um, yeah, so the power play. I mentioned the power play. 0 for 7 in that game. 0 for 17 is the latest stretch. And St. Louis is doing quite a bit of work trying to uh, tweak the power play a bit. What we saw in the 5-on-3 and what we've seen in the last couple of games is Dobson and Hudson being used together on their top wave of the power play. Um, it on paper should work. Both are very capable puck moving defensemen. Both are capable power play quarterbacks, but both together, it's not working. It's small sample size. I agree, but right now it's just not working. They started to get better puck movement when it was the second wave, or just when they went back to the power play on the 5-on-4s with their standard power play, where it was either Dobson or Hudson quarterbacking that power play with four forwards. So bringing Slavkovsky back, which honestly I think works better because he brings that net front presence. He can create some havoc down low, um, and it's hard to get shots through if there's no screen. There's no They don't have to focus on covering a guy in front of the net, so they're able to shift the coverage up ice a little bit, so they can put a little bit more pressure on the defenseman, which takes away time and space from Dobson and Hudson, which again is where the power play is sourced from. All the puck movement is sourced out of them when one of them is on the ice, or even both. Um, so maybe just go back to what worked before. Demidov, Suzuki, Caulfield, Slavkovsky, and Hudson as your top power play, or Dobson. Like, you can switch one or the other, but you got to keep those four forwards up there, and they need to stop playing as tentatively. They're second guessing their movements. They're When they were the most effective, when they were shooting at almost 60% on the power play once Demidov got there, the puck was moving crisp, it was moving clean, it was one touch passes. They were they were decisive. They knew what they wanted to do before the puck got to them. Now they're second guessing. It's that hesitation, that split second hesitation allows defenses to set themselves a little bit easier, a little bit better, and it's cutting off plays. It's allowing block shots, so it's hurting them overall. Um, so going into the game on Monday against Columbus, like I mentioned earlier, the Canadiens are stuck in their first slump of the season. They're looking to get back on track against a Columbus Blue Jackets team that, honestly, they're around the same place the Canadiens are in that rebuild quality type of level of the NHL. Um, and they got to get the Canadiens need their special teams going. They need to play a little bit more confidently, take some of what they learned from Saturday night, take some of the good from Saturday night, and kind of build on that. They really should realize that despite the loss, they showed a lot of guts, and they showed a lot more compete than they have in the past couple of games prior to that. Um, with Columbus, they're going to be ending their 3-game homestand. They just lost to the Rangers at home in I think it was a shootout or overtime on Saturday. Um, there was a power play goal that they had given up late in the game that really just hurt their chances. So they gave up a power play goal to the Rangers. So maybe the Canadiens can find that power play working again. Um, Players like Kirill Marchenko and Fantilli. Uh, those guys are going to are starting to really come on. So the Canadiens are going to have to be careful with them, especially Marchenko, who can be a Canadiens killer. He's also on a freaking was it 13 game point streak, 11 game point. I'm not sure what it is, but it's over 10 game point streak. So he's got a hot hand. He's going to be someone that the Canadiens are going to have to find an answer for because, like I said, he's a Canadiens killer, or he has been. Um, which brings me to the goaltending. I'm not sure who's going to start yet. If it's going to be Montembeault getting another start, or if it's Dobesh coming back after that 5 goal in 8 shot performance that he had in the last game. So I think Montembeault will get another start. I mean, he had a pretty good showing in the game against Boston, but it is a pretty quick turnaround. They do want to rebuild people's confidence, but at this point, I think a win is more important than building confidence for the goaltenders. I realize that this is a uh, there's steps and procedures, and they want it's a process. They want to follow a process to get this team going again. But this is a team that's expected to make the playoffs now, and while they did rack up some wins early to kind of give themselves a little bit of cushion, you don't want to give up too much either. So a win is really needed at this point. If not to get you back on track with the standings, but to reignite the team a little bit. If they can pull off a win on the road, I think that would go a long way in rebuilding the confidence for this team. So, and the Canadiens have pretty good track record against the Blue Jackets in the last couple of years. I think they won the season series the last 2 seasons, so they're they're in a good position to go out and get themselves a win. Um, what concerns me though is Suzuki seems to be playing through something. He's a little bit off. You notice he's having a harder time with his changes of direction, with his timing. He's still far more effective than most players in the NHL, but he's not at the top of his game. So I'm not sure if he's playing through an injury or if he's just dealing with, I don't know, some confidence thing. Either way, I think the setup that he got, that pass that he made to Caulfield for Caulfield's 13th goal to make it 3-2, to bring the Canadiens back to a 3-2 game against Boston, that might go a long way in helping with that, if it's not a health thing. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. If you're looking for other options to help the team, if they go on, get some more injuries, or you want to make a little bit of a change to add another forward. Right now, you're looking up at forward. You got Sean Farrell, Philip Meshar, Florian Jacki, Owen Beck. Those are guys that they could call up. With uh, Florian Jacki, I don't know if it's a good idea to call him up, even though if they did bring him up, him and Davidson on a fourth line, I think would be highly effective. But you want to develop Jacki's offensive game. He's NHL ready. Of that, I don't doubt. But what kind of NHL player can he become? And letting him get more ice time down in Laval, play a higher role, play in a top 6 role maybe. Now that there's some other people gone, give him more of a defined leadership and offensive role. That might help him develop that part of his game a little bit more. Owen Beck, um, while he's been playing on the wing quite a bit, he is still one of the best face-off men. Uh, that would be an absolute bonus for the Canadiens. They still need that additional help. And he is defensively responsible. Um, So sure, yeah, if they need another guy, they could call him up and he can step in and play in the bottom six role, no problem. Sean Farrell, he brings that speed that New Hook brought that they're going to be missing with New Hook out. Is he ready to take on a full time role at the NHL, especially in a top six? No. Uh, but if he's doing spot duty for a few games, you can see where he's at. Sure. And Philip Meshar had a really good start. Then he had a bit of a slump, and now he's starting to come back again. He's on pace for about 40 points in the AHL, which doesn't sound like a lot for a guy who was a first round pick, but his development right now is following at the AHL level is following what it did in the OHL. When he went to the OHL, yeah, sure, he put up points, but you can see the difficulties that he was facing with his overall game. And by the second season, he had pretty much cleared that up and he was ready to make the jump to the AHL. Last season in the AHL, he had a hard time. This season, it seems like he's adjusting well, and he's going to need a little bit more time before he's NHL ready. But this is a guy that he was known to be a long term project when he was drafted back in 2022. So another year, I think, would do him well in the AHL. And I don't think calling him up, if it's unless it's for like maybe a game or two at home, as a cookie to say, hey, good job. Other than that, I should stay down low, down in the AHL. Um, Fortunately for now, Gooley's the only defenseman that's out with an injury, and he's out for another extended period of time due to his surgery. So that doesn't leave a lot for people to be called up. So Reinbacher, Engstrom, sure. Although Reinbacher really it does need more time to play that top role and just get time on ice and playing time in all situations just to get his feet under him. So that would mean more than likely Engstrom gets the call if they need a defenseman. Sure, he can play on the right side. He had an exclusive interview with Marco D'Amico at rg.org. Go check that out. And he talked about that a little bit. Um, and yeah, so next game, Columbus, Monday night. The Canadiens desperately need to find that confidence that they had at the start of the year, which seems to have been waning in the last few games. There's going to be a bunch of rookies to keep an eye on. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how St. Louis adjusts the lineup to make up for all those added rookies. Um, so yeah, just keep an eye on that. And remember, this is a team that is the youngest in the NHL, and with the injuries happening, is becoming even younger. So you can't expect them to play a perfect road game, or uh, there's going to be mistakes. There's it's going to be difficult to watch for stretches, but I think Monday night the Canadiens are going to come out and they're going to play a little bit more um, focused, a little bit more determined. So it should be fun to watch. I would keep an eye on that. And that pretty much does it for this episode. Me alone. Sorry, I wish I had more people here with me, so it was a little bit more exciting. But I really do appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. And feel free to share. Let people know about us. Tell your friends. um, and remember, if you're talking about it, so are we.